Right. So yeah, I'm in Godot. I've opened Godot. What we're gonna do is design a 2D platformer game, but I won't be playing around with assets or complicated concepts. We're just gonna go on the very beginner level. First, first things you do after opening Godot is to switch to 2D. I'm gonna press 2D here. Then what I'm gonna do is create an environment. So nothing to stress too much about. So what you're gonna do, just come click on the first here where it's written 2D scene. Click on that. And once it's done, I can come here, double click on that. If you can double click, you can right click and rename here. So I'll come and rename this. Let's rename it world, which seems to be appropriate. Then I can press Ctrl S to save. What you can do, you can directly save your scene inside here, or you can also right click and it will create a new folder and let's rename that as well. Click OK. Now here you don't need to change any extension, and if you delete this part, it's going to create an error. So what we do after that, we press on save and we assert on the basic thing that we need. Now, next things to do, I would like to add a ground to my level since all platformers require ground. And for that, to create a ground in Godot, you actually require to add a static body 2D. And I'm going to come right click there, add a child node, click on static and type here static. And here it appears static body 2D, which is a physical body which can be moved. I'm going to come to the static body 2D and rename it as ground. And that's it. But this ground does not have any visual nor any collision. As you can see here, there is a warning saying this node has no shape. So it can't collide or interact with other nodes. So I need to add a collision to it. And add a collision, I'll come right click, add a child nodes. We're going to type here collision and make sure that you're selecting collision shape 2D and collision shape 3D or anything in red which is related to the 3D. So collision shape 2D, double click on that one. Now we get our collision shape 2D. Now from here, what we can do is now shape our ground. We have no warnings no more, and we can even reshape the ground. But what we actually need to do is we need a visual to see the ground, since this object, this collision, is not visible when the game is running. So to add that visual, I'm going to copy here, right click, add a child node. We can add uh, a texture rect, as you can see here, or you can add a color rect or a texture rect. But for texture rect, it's basically used when you have a texture that you can actually attribute to it. But in my case, I'm going to just click color rect, and this color rect is going to be the visual part of my ground. So for the ground, I'm gonna go with a darkish color, maybe brown or something like that. You can actually play with the wheel here until you find the brown color that you want. So for the ground, I'm gonna go with something like this. Yeah, kind of like chocolate, dark chocolate like this. This is perfect. Now, once that's done, I can play with my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. What I will do is I will come here on my bar and make sure that I select the use to which is use grid snap. You can press also Shift J to do that. And once that's done, I can now come and resize all of this to fit my game. So I'm gonna go with something like in height, I'm gonna go with 3 cells or 3 squares, whatever you wanna call them. Once that's done, I can press Ctrl L on my keyboard. Now my color rect is locked. Let's come here now. This collision shape is basically the ground itself. If I put the collision shape, we can come grab this one and put it on top here. So this collision shape is basically what infers the ground. If this collision shape only covers this section, you will be seeing all these brown grounds, but the only part that would collide will be this. So in order to get a good collision, you need it to cover the whole ground like this, but we don't want it to exceed like that. So we can come here and deactivate the snap to grid. Now we can manually come here and try to fit perfectly the size of the visual ground. And that's it. So here, once that's done, I can also zoom out Once this node is selected, instead of using shortcut as I did previously, we can also manually come click here to lock it, which is basically Control L. So if I click on it, now I can't move it anymore. What also I often tend to do is hide the collision shape so that I can see better what I'm working with. Once that's done, the color rate, which is the visual, the collision shape, which is the real collision of this ground, the static body 2D, I can save. Once that's done, now I need to move this ground on a lower level. I can come here. I need to select this gizmo, as you can see, because if I select the body here, it's kind of not working. So once the gizmo is selected, this is the ground that we have created. And that seems to be perfect. Now, let's save that. I'll come here, press on run. If I click, they will ask me, no maintain has been defined. So I can define the current one, which is our world so far. Then if I run again, and go to 4.8, you can see that it's running inside here. We can also come clear here. We can close the output for a better visual. But if you want your windows or the running debugger to open widely, you can click here where it will appear again out of screen like this. As you can see, this is way much better than a regular than the regular one inbuilt running. Now, if I put it on full screen, here is not stretching to the max, but if I come again here, I can stretch to fit. Now I got a full screen which fits the whole size of my screen. Let's close this. We have set the ground, which is really perfect. Now with the ground, what you can also actually do, you can press Ctrl D on your keyboard, and now we have second ground. I've just duplicated my previous ground to create another one. Now ground 2, I can actually apply a few changes to ground 2, which won't affect the ground 1. But for that, you need to break the link between the shape every time. So if I come here and break the shape link, I can now unlock them, click here to unlock them. I can even change the length of these. So you can actually manually come in and change them, or you can go to the section, which is called the inspector section side. I usually call it an inspector section. So on this section, if you come on layout, I can click on layout. And after I open the layout like this, I can come to transform. And in transform, there you can see the size based on the X and Y coordinate. So I can change the size to something like 260, which you can see extended it to a certain length. I can even go to 350, let's say 350, which seems to be okay. Then this process can also be done with collision shape. So for the collision shape, we do not have to play too much. So there is two ways about it. You can either change the scale, but if I change the scale, as you can see, if I go with the scale 2, now it's way too big. So I wouldn't recommend you to be playing around with the scale, but better with the size. So once you click on collision shape, you can come here on the rectangular shape, click on rectangle, and I can change it to fit what we have made. So 350. Now the position of the 350 is the problem. So now if I click here, it's kind of reset it to 0, which isn't also good. We can press Ctrl Z to go back. Now I can press my arrow key on my keyboard to see if it fits perfectly. You can also zoom in by pressing the roller on your mouse, and that's it. Now it's kind of fits. I can close that up, lock it by pressing Ctrl L, hide it, and I will do the same with the color rect. I can press I, and that's it. I've got ground 1, ground 2, but this is not visually good for the architecture of the nodes. What you can actually do is come to the root node, which is the world, right click, click on add a child node. We're going to add node 2D, and we're going to rename that node 2D as grounds. Now inside this ground, I can come here, press Control on the first one and the second one. Now I can move them to go under the ground. Now, they are child node of this ground, meaning if I hide this one, it affects all the children inside this ground. So the ground becomes a parent node of these two children. Now I can also come on grounds here, duplicate it again. So created ground 2. I can even move it down down below like this or like that. It will push it above. Now I can come here and try to set a platformer looking game. I can again press Ctrl D to duplicate and create a third one. Let's reduce that. Let's select all of them by pressing on the first one. Once the first one is selected, I can press Shift and I can select all of them and press Ctrl L. Now I can move them at all. They're all locked down. I can even select them, which seems to be okay. Press Ctrl L to save again. Let's run the game and see what it looks like. And this is pretty much good. Let's close this up. This is perfect. I would like also to add something to kind of bring life to our 2D platformer is to add a background. So right click on world, add a child node. We're going to add a recent node we have used, which is called a color X. We're going to double click on that. I'm going to come here and rename it as background. I kind of press background. Right. Now I can move this background node on top here. I can now zoom out a little bit to kind of center the screen. Now, if I come here, this is how it looks. There is also an automatic way to do it is just basically I can press Ctrl Z. Now, if I come here on the anchor presets, I can basically come here and press on full X. It should work, I guess. Uh, right. So I don't know exactly why it's not working, which seems to be off. Right. So we can just do it manually by enabling the grid as well. I don't know why it didn't work like time. And once that's done, we can come here and reset out. We can hide it and save. Now, I kind of feel like this is a bright color, way too bright for, a platformer. As you can see, it kind of like it's way too bright for, for the side. What we can do, we can even extend it to a certain margin where we can go beyond this size of the screen, which the size of the screen is actually shown by these blue lights, blue lines. I don't know if it's blue lines or purple line. Let's zoom in and we'll see. I think it's blue. Yeah. It's just a blue lines which are basically showing the limits of the screen size. Now, to change this color, I will just come to the inspector section again, click here. We can go for a bluish color, but this bluish color seems to be way too bright. Also, we can reduce it, and we can also play around with the alpha value. I can reduce it to 200, which seems to be okay. Click like that, and we're gonna get rid of whatever in the background, and that's pretty much it. So we get now a background and multiple grounds. If I come here, I can press Ctrl L to lock it once it's selected. So now if I try to move it, I won't be able to move it. Let's run the game again. And here it is, as you can see. Now let's close up, press Ctrl L to save. Let's get rid of everything here. Now, afterwards, what you actually need in the platformer beside ground and the background, it's a player. So in Godot, for a character, for a platformer or a top-down game, we often tend to use what's called a character body 2D, which has properties of gravity and velocity, which can actually move the object left and right, and also can process or simulate a jumping on the y-axis. So right click here, add a child node. We're gonna type character body 2D, and this is you kind of have like that icon of a character running. So just double click on that one. We're gonna double click on that character body 2D name, and we're gonna name it as player. Save that. We're gonna right click on the player. We need a visual for the player, so add a child node. We're gonna again reuse this color rect. Double click there. Now my character here is visual, is this one. What we can actually do is kind of change its color. Let's go for a yellow character, which is perfect. We're going to add a child node now. We're going to add another child node, which is needed by the character body 2D here. It's also a collision shape. So we're going to come to here, click on collision shape in recent, double click on that. Now the collision shape should match what we have here on screen. So I'm just gonna come here and try to move it to fit the size of the player. Once that's done, let's move like this. And now it's fit. Let's close that up and lock it like that. Now I can come and hide and save. Now you will notice something. If I run the game, the character still stuck up there and does not even fall due to gravity. You may think just because we didn't change its position when we started, that's why it's stuck up there. We can also first lock this. Let's reduce this. Now we got a player here. Let's reduce that. Even if we come move the player, if I come and move the player to this level here, set up, run again. You may think that just because I put it above the ground, even if I'm pressing my key here, nothing's happening because the character is not uh, does not have a script or is not coded yet. Let's actually fix that real quick. We won't code anything. We'll just use a basic template already made in Godot. So to attach a script or create a script in Godot, it's very simple. We will come to player, and on player node here, once it's selected, I can come click on this small icon, which says attach script. Now, once the script is attached, I can basically just click on create. Now, once that's created, we actually, we should have gone with the template format. Actually, forgot that on a beginner tutorial level. So what I can do is actually remove. We can detach the scripts, come to the file system section here. We can get rid of this as well to send us back to 2D here. So something that you should actually mind before you actually click create is basically they're asking you, you got a language, I'm using JavaScript, which actually what I handle, which is way similar to Python, which I mastered the most. We got the inherits, which basically the type of node you're using. In this case, it's a character body 2D. And we got a template. Here it's saying empty, but we can actually say built-in scripts or built-in scripts, which basically have some limitation, can be in like, it's actually not for beginners here. It's a little bit extended. So what you do after clicking on attach a script is come and click on templates, and it will give us the basic movement of a character body 2D as it should. Let's click on create. Now you can see it's quite different from what we got in the previous attempt. Once that's done, we can actually close this up. We won't get the actually overview on the script yet. I just want you to see. Now you can see if I'm pressing my arrows, I can move left and right. And if I press the space bar, I can jump. And you can see like it's on a moon gravity, looking like I can fall through the spaces between the ground, which what we actually desire. Now let's play around with a few settings. We're gonna go back to scripts. I will increase the speed, and I will increase also the jump velocity to something like 600. Now, if you notice in Godot, the y-axis is inverted. In normal physics, when object is going upwards on an x-axis, let's go here, I'll show you. When object is going on an x-axis, it's supposed to be increasing in positive way. But in Godot, when you are going upward, meaning on the y-axis, instead of going positive, it's going negative. So just always remember that. Now, if I come here, the say physics process, we're adding gravity. But where are we getting the gravity from? We're getting gravity from a function, and the function is getting that gravity from the input settings. So we just come to project settings. Here in the filter setting, we're just going to write gravity. And once you've written gravity, make sure that you see this physics. And on physics, we're just going to press on 2D. So the gravity here given is 980, but the more natural looking for a 2D platformer is actually 2500. I can come and close that one. Now you'll see the difference in gravity. It won't look and won't feel like a moon gravity anymore. Then depending on the project, you can actually create whatever you want. Now my speed has increased, then I can jump, go whatever I want. Now on the platformer, There are two ways. You can create a static platformer where the character and the whole level is seen on screen directly, or you can create what I usually tend to work on, which is a movable platformer where you can go on a longer and way more custom level where you can go beyond screen as here. And to do so, first we need to add a few modifications to my player. Let's go back to 2D, save that up. So I'll come to player, let's open the player, and the player needs few nodes. So the first things I'm going to add to my player is add for him a child node. We're going to add a camera. Type in here, camera 2D, just nothing yet to be changed or to be playing around with. Once that's added, now you can see here how the camera actually works. Now you see that the camera is showing me even sections beyond my reach, which this is below, and this is way to the left. You can play around with few settings. Now you see the camera is following all those grounds. That way, screen now they are gone. Let's play around with few settings in camera, then you see how useful this camera can be on a project. So I'll take this camera here. Once it's selected, we can come to this section and let's play with few things. So we got first the limits. Once limit is on, it shows like the camera can have limits. Now, limit to the left here is set to a way much greater value. I can reduce it to something like 100. I can reduce the bottom also to 100 if I want. No, the bottom will keep it to 1,000. And let's come here and click on smooth. Now, the most important thing is position smoothing. So in position smoothing, the default is 5, but if I take something like 1, you see how fun that becomes. So once it says to 1, it's the actual speed of the camera, how fast the camera catches up on the player. So the lower the value, the slower the camera to catch on the player. And depending on the type of platformer you're creating, you may actually want to play around that value. In my case, I feel like 5 was actually a good value. You can also do the same with rotation smoothing, but rotation smoothing usually involves a top-down game. In this case, we do not actually need it. And let's run again. You see the difference in the speed of the camera. Now you can see here, I'm jumping, and this seems to be actually great. I can also again come here and reduce the size of the bottom limits. Run again the game. Right, so the bottom limit seems to be affected. The bottom limit, I think you should actually consider the size given in the settings. So to do so, click on project settings, let's clear the filter, and let's make sure we're on display. So once the display is open, you can see my window. So my window has a default size given by Godot. I can actually change it. I'll go with 1080, and here I'll go with 720 and save that up. I can come here and close and save. So here now on the camera bottom, I can do something like 700. Click on save. Let's clear this up. And let's run the game again. Let's see what comes. Yeah, you can see I can see the dark part on the character camera side. I can actually jump and play around, which seems to be very good. So bit by bit, we'll be working on this and we'll be adding more and more things. Uh, let's move here. I'll add a new feature on the character, which actually makes him looks cool. I will lock the camera first. Let's come to color rect. On color rect, I'm gonna right click, add a child node, and I'm gonna add a color rect again. Now this new color rect I'm adding, I'm gonna rename it as I and save that up. And I can give him a reddish eye. And now I can resize that eye thing that we just created. And this is actually to show that the character is facing, perfect. Now this seems to be actually okay. If I come here, let's see a few things. So we got the layout, which seems to be okay. Now on offset transform, if I open it, seems to be right as well. So now we got a character which has an eye. Now this seems to be pretty good. Now Here I can also extend my level. Let's come to background, unlock it, and I'm just gonna come and push it a little bit further. Now we have a lengthy level which we actually can use more and more. I'll come on to ground, press all of them, and what I'm gonna do is press Ctrl D to duplicate them. And if I press Ctrl Shift and L, I unlock all that I just copied. Now, after all that I just copied are unlocked, I can move them like this. Can actually play with the eyes up and down like that. Duplicate again. Once you don't leave the selection, you can duplicate them as much as you want. Now I get something like this. I'll duplicate again and add more and more height to it and more, duplicate again up to the very end like this. This seems to be good. I can hide this. Now let's run the game. As you can see here, my character moves and jumps. And when I fall, actually nothing happened because there's no logic yet for that. So I gotta be very careful. And the only way to be very careful is to basically kind of cheat a little bit by increasing a lot of things. So let's run that again. Now we got this gravity jumping, which increased drastically. Wonderful. Now I got this up to the very end. This where my background actually stops. I can even go back, but this seems like it's going backward. And that's pretty much it for this first part of this tutorial on a beginner platformer. Uh, I was really glad to show you how to create, a basic project in Godot and how to set up a basic platformer. Let's catch up next time for the part two of this tutorial.